Thor Ragnarok is directed by Taika Waititi and stars Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Tom Hiddleston, Jeff Goldblum, Cate Blanchett and Tessa Thompson. Now before I say anything else, I want to make my opinion very, very clear. I do think this is the most entertaining of the three Thor movies. In terms of which one I think is the best, part of me will always prefer the first Thor movie because it kind of set up everything in the best possible way it could have, and it felt a lot more streamlined. But that being said, if I had to pick which one was the more entertaining and the more enjoyable out of the three, then yes, Thor Ragnarok definitely wins. And that's probably the biggest praise I can give Thor Ragnarok. It's a thoroughly entertaining movie that had me laughing my arse off from start to finish. Like, this is easily the funniest Marvel movie I've ever seen. I know Guardians of the Galaxy is pretty funny, and so is Ant-Man and the Avengers, and they have their funny moments, but Thor Ragnarok, you could almost class as a straight-up comedy. It's that funny. And I just love what Taika Waititi did with this movie, and the humour and just the overall feel of the movie is spot on. That being said, when the movie has to kind of ditch the humour and go straight for action, again, it does it really, really well. With a lot of the action scenes looking absolutely fantastic with the way it's shot, some of them almost even looking like paintings. The action scenes in this movie are really good. They don't detract from the overall light-hearted sense of humour that the movie has. And I'm going to be honest, any movie that uses Led Zeppelin in an action scene immediately gets a pass in my book. The performances in this movie are all great. There is not a single bad performance in the entire movie. And the best thing I can say about the performances is that everyone looks like they're having fun. Even the likes of Cate Blanchett as the main bad guy, Hela, she looks like she's just relishing every moment she's on screen, and she is really good as the bad guy. Chris Hemsworth was really good yet again as Thor. I think now they've finally kind of nailed how the character really should be, and I think it has been a very gradual but much needed transition from that first Thor movie, because in the first Thor movie it was very theatrical, very Shakespearean almost, in terms of how all the people acted, especially the likes of Thor and Loki. But now, Thor is a lot more cockier, and he's almost acting like a Asgardian version of Tony Stark, always quipping here and there, and I do think it works for the sake of his character, especially in the position he's in now. He's kind of learnt all these things from the people he's been around, especially with the likes of the Avengers, and now, because he's been around them for such a long time, he just kind of has to act like that now, and he really does fit the style of this movie. Tom Hiddleston is amazing as Loki. I mean, at this point he is Loki. I can't really see anyone else playing that role. It was really nice to see Mark Ruffalo again as Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and it was really nice to see the relationship that him and Thor had throughout the movie. It's not handled in the way that you'd expect, and I thought that was a really nice touch. There are actually quite a few conversational scenes between Thor and Hulk, and that led to some genuinely funny moments. Tessa Thompson is really good as well. It's nice to see her getting some big screen action for once, because most of the stuff I've seen her in have been, you know, low budget British TV stuff. I think she's even in an episode of Black Mirror, if I'm not mistaken. So it's nice to see her make that transition to a big budget Hollywood movie. And then there's Jeff Goldblum, who, the best way I can describe it is that he just makes the most of his role. But to be honest, half the time when he was on screen, it did feel like he was just doing his own thing and was not aware of the cameras being on. For example, he would do this little, really odd little thing that actually turns out to be quite funny, and then he'll just be like, okay, when's the scene gonna start? And cut. Oh, we were rolling? Okay. Unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, I don't think it's a perfect movie. I do think it has a couple of flaws, and the main one of them is in regards to how much of Taika Waititi's original vision actually made the screen. Now, as I was watching the movie, I was thoroughly impressed because for the most part it does feel like Taika Waititi's own movie. There's enough of his own unique style and sense of humour to make it his own. And the fact that he got a lot of this past the people at Marvel really did impress me, and I was really relishing what I was seeing because it felt like I was watching an independent movie rather than a Thor movie. That being said, and this is where one of my problems comes into play, is that for all the moments that feel like Taika Waititi's doing his own thing, you have those obvious moments that you know are going to come round that kind of feel like Marvel taking control for just a little bit. It's not a huge thing in the movie, but it's just kind of there. For example, you'll have all these scenes that are really funny and upbeat and absolutely hilarious over with Thor, Hulk, Loki and all them people on this distant far junk planet. And that stuff does feel like Taika Waititi doing what Taika Waititi does best. But then you'll get this immediate shift and it'll go straight back to Asgard where everything's serious, depressing, and Cate Blanchett is just kind of spouting off exposition left, right and centre. And that's the parts that kind of made me feel as if Marvel was kind of going, yeah, but you have to include this. I don't care what you're doing, but you kind of have to do it that way. And it just kind of felt a little uneven at times. You have these upbeat moments and then it will quite abruptly go straight back to Asgard where all this serious stuff's happening and the conflict in tones doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, but for the majority of the movie it doesn't. And I just want to stress, I don't want to sound like I'm saying Taika Waititi did a bad job of directing this movie. I'm not saying that at all. I think he did a fantastic job. And I have to admit, I do feel like a good 80%, maybe 85% feels like his actual final product, like it was his. But there's that 10-15% that feels like it was slightly tweaked by Marvel and they kind of had to put it in for the sake of the plot. Apart from those little problems that kind of bugged me, I had a ton of fun with Thor Ragnarok and I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. If you loved any of the Marvel movies or if you're a fan of Taika Waititi's rather quirky style, then I think you'll love this movie. So guys, that was my review of Thor Ragnarok. If you've seen the movie, then let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Bye!